what else is there to say but that Morgan Rielly is a Toronto Maple Leaf, will be a Toronto Maple Leaf for at least 8 more seasons at $7.5 million per year. I mean, my God. As a Leafs fan, it is an extraordinary feeling when you look at a contract the day it is signed and say that is a steal of contract relative to other players at his position. Credit to Dubas, in my opinion at least, I don't think a ton of his contracts have been huge overpayments. I think John Tavares was actually a hometown discount. Teams like San Jose and Boston offered him $14 million per year, so really him taking 11 was a huge discount. Austin Matthews was always going to get 11.6, 11.5 the moment McDavid got 12. So I think he didn't really overpay there. I think the Leafs probably would have preferred to give more UFA years. McDavid signed 12 by 8. Matthews took 11.6 by 5 or 6. So obviously the term is what really Dubas lost out on. And Nylander's contract was a decent signing at the time and has aged extremely well over the years. But Morgan Rielly, as a Maple Leafs fan, heading into the offseason, my expectation was Morgan Rielly was going to get around 7.5, and it would be unrealistic for him to ask for a penny above 8, and I was comfortable paying him 7.5 because despite some of his inconsistencies in his defense in his own end the last 2 seasons, where really a lot of the times he's been a negative and he's needed, other players to pick up the slack for him in his own end, especially in the tail end of the playoffs last year against Montreal. Regardless of how terrible the team played as a whole, I had a lot of confidence in Morgan Rielly, and I felt that he was really coming into his own as a more two-way defenseman instead of a power play merchant that focused only on the offensive end. And I think him and TJ Brody together, although they've had a lot of rough patches, and this team in general has had so many rough instances, I think that this is a defense pair that will figure it out, and they have enough talent to figure it out. But I thought 7.5 was perfectly fine. I felt it was a very comparable contract to what Torrey Krug got. The two of them entered unrestricted free agency around the same year. Krug obviously had the Cup pedigree, the playoff success pedigree with Boston, and they were both similar guys. Won't score a ton of goals outside of Morgan Rielly's one breakout season. They're power play quarterbacks, but they primarily facilitate. They're not huge shot takers. They're okay in their own end, and they move the puck well. And so I thought that was a comparable. However, Seth Jones happened, 9.5 mil. Zach Werenski signed, a little bit above 9.5 mil. Darnell Nurse got $9 million per year. And when you look at the culmination of those contracts, and you look at how past free agent signings have gone for Toronto, you think Morgan Rielly is getting at least $9 million per year, if not $10 million per year. And you look at the Quinn Hughes contract, I think it was $6.75 for 3 seasons, right? It's a bridge deal, and he's making almost $7 million. There's no way that Toronto is going to be able to avoid paying the full unrestricted free agent price tag. And there were reports that Morgan Rielly was willing to take a discount to stay in Toronto, but we heard the same thing about Zach Hyman, and the reality is, if this team doesn't win, if this team doesn't consistently put in a winning product that can give players, not just fans, but players confidence that their career can go places with this team, they're not going to be willing to take discounts. Zach Hyman was willing to take discounts up until the Leafs embarrassingly lost to a 4th-seeded Montreal Canadiens team that in a regular season format would have had no business even making the playoffs in the first place. And guess what? He got paid, right? He got paid, and he went to Edmonton, and God bless him, he's doing amazing, just like I knew he would, and Edmonton fans are already in love with him. And that was Leafs fans, I feel, were already being prepared to either lose a lot of really important pieces like a Justin Hall, a Travis Dermott, Pierre Engvall, who's high resurgence, honestly, I wouldn't even mind losing Nick Ritchie at this point in order to either facilitate Morgan Rielly's $10 million cap hit, or watch Morgan Rielly leaving free agency at the end of this season for nothing. And to be able to see him come back at $7.5 million per year, relative to the other contracts that have been signed this season for other top level defensemen, I think as a Leafs fan, there can be nothing for you to complain about. And I do think that this gives this team more clarity. Something that other Leafs content producers have mentioned is the fact that this year's team will have more consistency going into next season. Nick Ritchie is signed to 2 years. Michael Bunting is signed to 2 years. I'm pretty sure Engvall still has another year after this one. And now you're signing Morgan Rielly back, and I hope to God the Leafs bring back Jack Campbell on a contract, and you'll have some consistency in the roster instead of that continuous overturn in the bottom six. What is very dangerous about this signing is that now Toronto has locked themselves in to this team. This is the team now. After the Montreal series, we're saying Morgan Rielly will get moved, or Mitch Marner is going to get moved, or Nylander is going to get moved. Someone has to go. Something has to get shaken up. And Dubas has doubled down on this roster, doubled down on this team, and he's saying, this is our group of guys. We're going to win with this group of guys. I have faith in this group of guys. And depending on how they play this season, this signing right here might cost Dubas his job. It's an unfortunate reality, although I do think that MLSE will have a little bit more patience with him. I think the organization has seen a recent run of success compared to his predecessors, and they're willing to give him more leeway to build the roster that he envisions. And obviously, it's not a surprise that this Leafs team has struggled this season. But I think being able to put this Morgan Rielly extension talk in the back burner now that we've got it settled will help this team kind of settle down and just look ahead at the work they have for them. Obviously, this has only been, game 8. There's a lot of games left in the season, but this team has to pull it together. Otherwise, from a team construction standpoint, if they fail in the playoffs again this year, what are they going to do from here? They have no cap flexibility. They have even less now that they've re-signed Morgan Rielly to that term, to that AAV. And, relative to other defenseman contracts, it's a steal of a contract. But if we need to make a move, it's going to take moving a Marner or a Nylander or a Rielly. It's going to take one of those three getting moved. And so, obviously, I think I'm looking a little bit too far ahead. I hope none of this actually has to happen. I hope this team makes progress this season, but from what I've seen so far, it doesn't seem likely. But, obviously, typical Leafs fan being pessimistic in a video that should really be really, really positive. We've signed our number 1 defenseman. We got him on great term, great value. That's a hats off to Kyle Dubas. We just need to see the team that we envisioned in the preseason on paper to show up consistently in games. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm really glad that Mo is sticking here for the long haul. And go Leafs go.